In our last module, we were able to see how to do quite a few things. We were able to add some quick replies to our conversation start. We were able to add a custom topic called Xbox. And in adding that custom topic, we played around with the Create Generative Answers node in order to change the target site that it was using to answer the question. Before we move on to Bing Custom Search, which will be next, I want to just double click a little bit on this node and give you a couple more tips in this particular chapter. All right, so I'm going to click Edit again. You've already been in here, and you can see that there's quite a lot of stuff in here. There's Classic and then there's Advanced. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in this chapter. First, I'm going to run it the way we had it when we finished our last chapter. So I'm just going to do what Xbox consoles do you have? And it will pull those consoles up. And I'm going to just bring you to the overview page to remind you that we do have some instructions that are general to this agent. And those instructions include to use line breaks and bullet points to clarify answers. And we also gave an instruction to include the product name, description, and price when it mentions products. And you can see it doing that here. And we have some Xbox Series S's and some Xbox Series X consoles. And in each case, you have a description, a price, and a link to the product. Now, I want to point out that this instruction applies to everything, unless you add custom instructions to a particular topic. So if we go back to our Xbox topic and we just open that up, and now I'm going to click Edit on the data sources again, and we're going to look at a different area. So we saw that we could pick knowledge sources. We saw that we could add a public website. We will come back in there and do some other things later. But what I want to point out is under that is an ability to add your own custom instructions to what's happening right now in this topic. So these custom instructions will only apply to this prompt and this call to the for a summarized answer. And so if I put something in here like, do not mention Xbox Series S. So before we had X and S. So in the same way you can give instructions of what you want it to do, you can also give it instructions of what you don't want it to do. So I'm going to save those custom instructions, which again, because I was in that node making configuration changes within the Create Generative Answers node, it only applies to that and nothing else. All right, so I'm going to reset the test, and then I'm going to choose Xbox again because I want to trigger that topic. So I'm going to choose what Xbox consoles do you have? And you will see that we will get the console list without the S. All right. So the limitations are basically your imagination. All right. So this is all about prompt engineering. And there will be some notes in your student assets of more you can read up on prompt engineering. But when it comes to prompting, you want to be clear. So making your statements very clear. You want to be descriptive. You want to provide a description where needed. And always remember that you're talking to an artificial intelligence. You're not talking to a search engine. So you want to use full sentences and explain exactly what you want. And you're talking basically to the LLM that's going to be able to produce that summarized answer. And it may take some trial and error to get your prompts just right. That was extremely easy. I just did don't mention Xbox Series S, and that was easy. I am going to remove it though, because we won't need it for some of the other things we're going to do. So you might want to remove that, reset your test panel, and then don't forget to save. All right, so now I have that gone. So that custom instruction has been removed. And so now it will give me back the Series S consoles. I have a hard time with that word console. So that's important to keep in mind, because sometimes you need to be able to give some instructions, and we call these custom instructions, that will go with the prompt so that you get a better result. And there's a lot of things you can do here. So another thing I have done in the past is I'll say, give the answer first in English and then in French. So you can do these multilingual scenarios. You can even tell it only answer in French. So there's a lot of things you can do. It's basically your imagination on this. And I just want to show you a few more things. Normally, you don't need a latency message on generative answers. They tend to come back quickly. But if you, for some reason, have some complex prompt going on, you could actually send a message so that while they're waiting, they don't just see retrieving, they see whatever message you type. But more important than that I use pretty often, and these settings you will come across as you have different scenarios. We can't exhaust it all in these modules, but you will get to do some of these. One of the things I use very often, in addition to custom instructions, is the ability to save the bot response. It can be saved as a variable that I define in two ways: as text only, kind of what the user sees there, or as the complete variable. I want you to notice, if I go to variables in here, you'll see that there are no variables showing anything right now as far as what happened in this chat, right? And we talked about variables happening almost dynamically right here. So I want to show you an option you have in generative answers, where in the advanced area, you can exactly say how you want it to save the response. It can be text or it can be complete. So text is what you see over there on the right in the test panel. I'm going to put complete just so that you can see what that looks like. And then you can create a new variable to hold that response. Name it whatever you want. So I'm going to just name mine response. Really simple. And save, right? So I hope I got that saved. Yes, I did. Save. Okay. So always check your screen, make sure it's saved, that nothing interrupted it. All right. So now what we have done is, in this edit data sources area, we have gone down to the advanced section and we have said save the entire response and then put it in this variable called response. Now, if I uncheck send a message, if I uncheck that, then it will not send the message. Okay, so this whole thing that came back to the user would not come back to the user unless this is checked. That's why it's checked by default. But let's say you want to do something with that message before you give it to the user, then you might uncheck that and then use the variable to do whatever you need to do. All right. So again, we'll get into some of these more complex scenarios soon. I'm going to hit save on that. I'm keeping the send a message. And I'm just going to refresh and do it one more time just to show you it lit up in the variable. Okay. You just wait for it to come through. And now if we go into the variables, as soon as it comes through, I believe I can get it right now, but I'm going to wait for it to come through. You hit the variable and then you'll see all of your variables. And since I said complete, the response is complete. And you can do this yourself and look at the format of the response. It is formatted like JSON, and it's more complex than what you see in the chat. But please do understand that gives you a great deal of options of what you might want to do with that content before you show it to your end user. So I just wanted to show you that. We are going to not cover everything in here because there is quite a bit. You can see that under classic data, We have SharePoint sites. We have Azure OpenAI services. We've got custom data. And so we won't exhaust all of these, but basically the principles remain the same. Depending on where you want to target the knowledge for this node, you can assign it to the knowledge you want it to use for this node. Therefore, it will use that knowledge as a primary source, okay? And it will generate responses over that knowledge source. Now, since most of these are straightforward, with the exception of Bing Custom Search, I do want to take the next chapter to focus on Bing Custom Search. And as you scroll through here, you probably don't notice it. So even though I'm zoomed in, you don't see Bing Custom Search. It's a little bit hidden. So right here where it says search public data, it defaults to public websites, which we have used to add the Xbox site. But if you drop this little chevron down, you'll see search with Bing Custom Search. So that's what we're going to learn in the next chapter. So I just wanted to give you a heads up as to where it is in case you were looking during this chapter. Also, I want to give you a little special call to action. I'd like you to play around with custom instructions and also changing public sites and see how you find that useful, maybe against your own website. Create an agent with your own website as the source. Doesn't hurt anything because you're not doing any transactions. You're just using it as knowledge. And then try to add a topic and use generative answers to get some answers, but specify a custom instruction, specify a custom website, capture the answer and don't send it to the user. Kind of play with some of the concepts we went on together, and that will help to enforce it in your mind and give you some ideas on how you might use it in your actual scenarios. All right, I'll be seeing you at the next chapter.